against the fated flea, will you?
Shut up, you! Can you not fool around that, you, without making a dirty mess? Look at the state of the floor!
So what the hell, lads? It's only a lot of shavings. What business is it of yours, anyhow?
Not less of your cheek! How's you about the place, anyway?
I'm waiting.
Waiting? Waiting for who? God!
Well, something like that, yeah.
Forget about it. Waiting. I leave you waiting. Get on that.
Born in Armagh around 1580, descended from ancient Irish royalty, the warring O'Neills, going back to nigh up the 9 hostages. Owen Roe O Neill was nephew to Hugh, the great Earl of Tyrone, the O'Neill. His mother, a daughter of the O'Reilly, chief of Breffni. At roughly 20, Owen left Ireland for Spanish Flanders to pursue a military career, building over 3 decades in Spanish military service, a great reputation in Europe for his logistical and leadership skills. Wars in continental Europe during this turbulent period of religious reformation were soon playing out in the civil wars of the parliamentary and religious revolts against the beleaguered King of England, Scotland and Ireland. Owen Roe viewed these domestic distractions opportunistically, continuously plotting and petitioning the papacy and sympathetic Catholic countries for support to address the effects of the recent plantations on his people and the erosion of the religion and status back home. Fear amongst the Scots and English settlers at the outbreak of the Ulster Rebellion, led by his cousin Sir Phelim O'Neill, provoked a rapidly escalating backlash. The panicking English tried to hamper Owen's return from the continent to provide military assistance. The theatre of war had just extended to Ireland. Owen landed in Donegal in July 1642. Give is more cream. Owen was last. Fought your will, my heart. Welcome.
What is a talk to Phelim, my friend? You know, I have prayed for this day for so long. My heart, it beats with joy to be back on Ulster soil again. I trust you are well.
Better for seeing you. You must make haste for Charlotte. A feast awaits, but quickly. There is much to discuss, so much to do. I trust you managed to get away in the end. You had safe passage.
Oh, I would not be deterred. Tell me, Phelim, how goes the rebellion? Are we gaining ground? Go on, tell on.
Told you, nothing to do. My marriage is my business. It's not just Breffni, it's the Anglo-Norman. They are controlling the whole. I told you.
No, Mother Dios! What have I returned to? Ulster is not only like a desert, but like hell itself. If hell could exist on earth. It has become a desolate, barren wasteland. The towns and villages deserted. The people driven to the bogs and the mountainsides. And hunger stalking the land. The Scottish Covenanters have destroyed our province.
Sadly the case, Owen. The Confederates are giving the bulk of military resources to the Old English, Preston and Leinster. We here in Ulster simply don't have what we need to defend ourselves.
And the troops, if they can be called such, are completely lacking in discipline. Not just training, have they got any training? And from my conversations with some of them, they show a complete lack of respect for authority. Now, I ask you, Phelim, where in God's name has been the leadership that
I concur. I witnessed it myself. God knows I'm aware of the huge task ahead of us. Look, I've observed men who cannot march in formation. Never mind load a musket or handle weapons. The lack of training and discipline has long required leadership like yours. You couldn't have come at a better time.
Enough talk. Now what we must do, Phelim, we must set about training these men. Turn them into a disciplined military force to be feared and respected. I shall write to my good friend, the Papal Nuncio, Giovanni Rinuccini. He is passionately committed to Ireland's cause and to our religious freedom.
Mr. O'Neill, sir, I'm only after getting this letter. I was told to bring it to you very urgently, sir.
Sobre mi alma!
Upon my soul.
It's from General Leslie, no less. Now, Phelim, listen to the rantings of Esquetonto.
His fool,
Sitting on his suculo.
his arse.
Mr. General O'Neill, I wish to express my regret that a man of your military experience and renowned reputation abroad should come to Ireland to second so bad a cause. The arrogance of that man. He deems my returning to our country to fight for our independence from our colonial English oppressors and from our religious oppression as a bad cause.
The fetter. Sorry, sir.
Oh, Dios! Dear General Leslie, my cause in Ireland is far more honourable than that of a general fighting at the head of an army against his own king. Yours, Lord General Owen Roe O Neill. Now, you see that gets delivered as quickly as possible. Yes, brother. What is your name, senor?
Who, me? Reilly, sir. Paddy Reilly.
Your accent, Paddy, it sounds vaguely familiar. Where are you from?
Ballyduff, sir. Bally James Duff. County Cavan, sir.
Paddy? Can't say I've ever heard of it.
I'm relieved to hear that, sir. It doesn't exist yet. Never mind, sir.
What a strange.
The Irish Catholic Confederation was set up towards the end of the Ulster Rebellion. The age-old feuding of the Gaelic clans and the rivalries of fellow mercenaries like Thomas Preston, returning from the continent, contributed to a series of bewilderingly shifting allegiances during the Confederate Wars, and compromised Owen Roe's unique vision of a unified Irish Republic. He was appointed commander of the Ulster Army and Preston of the Leinster Force by the Confederate leadership, which was heavily biased with Anglo-Norman nobility. Preston's old English Catholic family were the Viscounts of Gormanston. The old rivalry between these two men, not helped by the recent marriage of Preston's daughter to Owen's equally competitive kinsman, Sir Phelim, typified Anglo-Norman and native Irish frictions. Their common enemy of English oppression of Catholicism was quite new, and even Owen's own bloodline to the most powerful Anglo-Irish Earls of Kildare, his invaluable military expertise and close relations with Catholic continental powers failed to combat the distrust of a native Irish Ulsterman. and he was generally left outside the inner workings of the Confederate government. During early engagements with English troops and the recently arrived Scots armies of Generals Leslie and Monroe in Ulster, O'Neill grappled with expectations of military results based on his reputation, but without enough arms and properly trained personnel. He appealed for practical assistance and vehemently called out and disassociated himself from the brutal violations of war terms by undisciplined troops. Letter to Archbishop Thomas Fleming of the Supreme Council of the Confederate Assembly, 13th of March, 1643.
Reverend Father, your letters are of little comfort to me, or indeed our nation. There is no end to the problems, obstacles and disappointments I have had to face since my return to Ireland. And I trust you will appreciate the difficult position I am in, and I will leave it to the better judgment of our Supreme Council of the Catholic Confederation, who I believe will understand my predicament and provide support for me and my troops. Now that's for me personally. I surmise there is not a man in the universe that suffers more misery than myself. I would never have dreamed before I came back to my beloved province of Ulster that I would have to do so much to protect my reputation due to the unwillingness and stubbornness of this province. I am required to be available in several places at once to provide my services, which I use my best endeavour to oblige. For a full year now, I've gathered my forces together in the hope of doing some good service, and find now that I can get but 2.5 companies from County Monaghan, with plenty of fuss, by the way, whom I have dispatched where they are required. So, from the 600 men I needed, I ended up with just over 300 to meet the enemy. By God's grace, our few company of horse mastered the enemy very well, killing 5 of their horsemen and injuring 9, thanks in no small measure to many of my relations. I cannot make it back to County Cavan at the moment, but Colonel O'Reilly has marched with most of the men to Castleblaney, where they have remained for some rest. I have sent the Colonel back to Cavan. Now, I have been informed that 600 men marched from Dundalk and looted houses and burned and pillaged along the way, and then sold the looted goods to the enemy at exorbitant prices in Dundalk and Uri. The injured parties lay the blame solely at my feet, but I assure you, Reverend Father, it can in no way be imputed to have been my fault, and I trust that you will take the necessary action to put an end to this disgraceful activity and restore my good name. Your loving servant and friend, Lord General Owen O Neill.
Well said, General O'Neill, sir. You tell him, the lying bastard.
Deliver that, please. Senor, what is your name again?
Ready, sir. Penny ready. I didn't mean to be cheeky, sir.
Oh, very good.
During 1643, several skirmishes and incidents highlighted the need for Owen to regroup and train and discipline his Ulster army. All this while, prolonged discussions were taking place for one of the many proposed cessations of the conflict. This particular one between the King's Royalist Army in Ireland, led by his head representative, the Lord Lieutenant Marquis of Ormond, and the Confederates. That autumn, the Confederate Supreme Council's ill-advised plan for the Earl of Castlehaven to lead a major offensive the following year in O'Neill's own familiar Ulster terrain was a very public rebuff of the obviously superior candidate. This self-destructive decision, rooted in jealousy and suspicion, was to end in failure. Earlier that summer, having withdrawn from Ulster, O'Neill and his nemesis, Thomas Preston, had both engaged in a campaign to stabilise Leinster. Despite their deep animosity and rivalry, this campaign had been quite successful.
Secession. Secession.
What?
Secession.
Cessation?
That's Brady, General O'Neill, sir. She just be fussing about the place, making a nuisance of herself. Sure, you want to know where she turned up next? She can appear and I know her. Don't know what the attraction is myself.
I see. Tell me, Paddy, may I ask, are you an educated man?
Oh, you would surely, sir. I am indeed an educated man.
I thought so. And tell me, were you taught how to read and write in the English language?
Oh, it certainly was, sir. I'd be most proficient in both Gaelic and English, sir.
Very good. Well, then maybe you might honour me and oblige me by writing a letter for me, if that was possible. Would you do that, please?
Well, General, sir, it'd be an honour.
Very good. To the Marquis of Ormond. My two nephews, Hugh and Arthur O'Neill, were recently taken prisoner following a small skirmish by Sir Robert Stewart, and are now being held in the city of Derry. Now, having marched with my forces nearby, where I have taken several small garrisons and the castle at Ballybeg, where I have taken prisoner young Captain Tichborne, Sir Harry Tichborne's son and heir. I have written to Sir Robert Stewart concerning my men to know upon what terms he would release them. And he told me to take it up with you. Now the agreement under the articles and rules of the cessation of hostilities was that all prisoners in our custody were to be set at liberty, which I have given orders to do. As a result, every prisoner in the province of Ulster has been released. You, however, have not honoured this agreement, and I still await the release of the aforementioned, together with all of my officers and soldiers. These men are sustaining a great deal of penury, and are denied the benefits of the cessation of hostilities, which is quite contrary to the intent of the articles. And I hereby demand their immediate release. This so-called cessation, which we should be making good use of, has done nothing but impoverish and weaken us due to your arrogant disregard for the terms agreed and of conventional military practice. I believe it would have been 10 times better for us to have kept hot wars with you than to be used and subject to such intolerable behaviour. Yours, General O'Neill.
Very well put, General O'Neill, sir. There's no telling these figures.
Papal Nuncio Rinuccini arrived in October 1645 with money and equipment. 2/3 went to the already well-supplied Preston for Leinster. The remainder was left for O'Neill. His army now in better shape, set up in Cavan, Owen received a confused request from the Anglo-Irish Marquess of Ormond, under whose cessation terms the Confederates were agreed. Amongst the catalogue of woes, the Scotch, who had totally disregarded the truce, were threatening Connacht again. Something is expected from you, but I am not able to advise what it is fit for you to do. O'Neill's reply was barely restrained.
My lord, at my arrival here, on your orders, I found nothing but chaos and disorder. Some of my horse are scattered all over Munster, which if I had here now, I could make great progress. Please, your excellency, I will receive any orders and commands that you may wish to impart, and I shall observe and obey them. In 5 days, 5 days I shall be ready for service. Now before I left Kilkenny, I sent £1,000 to lay up provision for a magazine for my army, but none of it has been put to good use yet. Now despite this, I shall have men and provisions at the readiness. It is my opinion that I shall advance towards the quarters of these Scotch rebels, where with God's helping hand, I believe I have the strength to defeat them. To move into Connacht at this time with your excellency's forces not yet in the field would leave the passage clear for the enemy and bring complete destruction upon Meath and Westmeath. This cannot be allowed to happen. I would have written to your excellency sooner had I not been assured that you would daily expect it at the frontiers in Dundalk with your forces. Now if I had all my forces together here now, I would have 5,000 foot soldiers, together with 400 to 500 horse under my command. A considerable strength. Yours, General Owen Roe, Cavan Town, 10th of May, 1646.
I can detect the frustration in your voice, General O'Neill, sir. You'll be correct in what you're saying, if you don't mind me saying so. But that shower doesn't know how blessed they are to have you on their side. Sure, you're the greatest military strategist this country has ever known. Do you think you take your advice, sir?
That remains to be seen, Paddy. But I doubt it. I doubt it very much.
We live in hope, sir.
Scotch forces were threatening further south now, and O'Neill, who had been compromised by inadequate funding, cessation agreements and increasingly shifting loyalties, was still being looked on for protection. In early June 1646, General Monroe and the Scotch planter militias gathered in forced marches to converge in battle with O'Neill's army. But O'Neill himself went on the offensive, marching rapidly north to Benburb, where he rested his well-prepared troops along the banks of the River Blackwater the night before the great battle. Reminding them of Ireland's long sorrows and Ulster's special woes, he bade them acquit themselves that day as men. And remember, whoever retreats deserts Ireland and deserts me.
Gentlemen and fellow soldiers, know that those you see before you ready to fight are those that have banished you, your wives and your children from your homes and from your lands, and made you seek your livelihood in strange and foreign places. Now you have arms in your hands as good as they have, and you are gentlemen, the very flower of Ulster, descended from as ancient and honourable a stock of people as any in Europe. This land we have possessed for 3,000 years. All Christendom know our quarrel is good. To fight for our native birthright and for the religion professed by our forefathers. So now is the time for you to put an end to your distressed and slavish condition, and to try your valour and your strength on those who now wish to destroy you, bud and branch. So let your manhood be seen by your push-off pike, and with God's assistance and the intercession of His blessed Mother, this day will be ours. Your word is Sancta Maria. And so, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, advance, men, and do not fire until you are within pike length. And remember, whoever may perish in this battle, let him be sure and certain of eternal bliss for the defence of his holy religion and for the free liberties of our lives in which we are justified. We will be victorious today, just like Gratian the Younger, Emperor of Rome, when against the King of Hungary, although outnumbered 3-1, he won his battle and lost but 10 men himself. Those that you see before you ready to spill your blood, those are the ones that have profaned your churches, turned your altars and sanctuaries into beastly mangers, murdered your families and friends, and turned our sweet native country to desolation. So now, my hearts of gold, take courage against your enemy. There is nowhere safe for you to fly unto. The 4 provinces of Ireland do abound with that same enemy. I myself, with the aid of heaven, will lead you today. Today we fight and we live or we die. Fight manly. Sound the trumpet for battle. Advance. Fight. Live. Reign. Fight. Live. Reign.
Between the armies lay the Blackwater, and as Munro marched along the eastern bank of the river, O'Neill kept pace on the western bank, watching his movements. Munro led his army across Caledon, and the forces stood face to face on the Tyrone side of the river. But Owen had already chosen his place of battle, where the river Una flows into the Blackwater. His plan was to bring a small jump from Caledon to the chosen ground. Munro feared that O'Neill, the astute strategist, might in some way escape him and retire to the lines of Charlotte. Knowing this, Owen Roe pushed on his own regiment to the pass of Ballykillywell, through which Monroe's army must advance to Benburb in order to hold the pass. The English army attacked the lines, but were driven back in confusion. O'Neill then moved his troops to the hill of Knocknacloy, where he determined the battle should be fought. His troops took their positions among the scrogs and bushes. The infantry was armed with half pike and half musket, and the pikes were longer by a foot in the handle than the ordinary weapons and proved deadly in the charge. Owen's time had come. A masterly series of movements revealed his great design. Massing his forces strongly on the right wing, he took the offensive, forcing the British to where the Una and the Blackwater meet, where, packed and impeded by their very numbers, they would lie open to the onset of the Irish. The Irish army may be likened to a hand poised on the wrist, with outspread fingers representing the various columns, moving on the axis of the hill as the hand moves upon the wrist. The whole force swung slowly round from right to left, jamming the enemy between their lines and the waters of the two rivers. A fierce battle ensued. The sun and wind were now favourable to O'Neill. The British were thrown into utter confusion and scrambled to try to change their front. It is now past 7 o'clock, and the sun shone full in the faces of the enemy. O'Neill raised his hat, and summoning his troops around him, proclaimed, "Gentlemen, in a few minutes we shall be there. Pass the word along the line, Santa Maria! In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Charge for the old land." One mighty shout of exultation, and the Irish line smashed Monroe's first line of defence, while the foot soldiers fell stubbornly up the slopes. Over the tumult, the general's voice rang out, "Redouble your blows!" and the battle is won. Like a living wall, O'Neill's forces flung back the Scotch and English by four. Then climbing the hill, and at last with a wild hurrah, they rushed at full speed upon the battery. Indeed, as Owen had said, the battle was won. The Scotch and English broke and rushed frantically from the field. In the blaze of the setting sun, the Ulster plain looked like a sheet of blood. 3,248 dead bodies lying upon the field, the whole proud array of the invaders, wrecked, mangled, annihilated. O'Neill, as always, ensured that the fallen enemy leaders were buried with honour and respect. Monroe fled, leaving his hat and coat behind, and with a few horsemen, he rode madly for Carrickfergus. Only 70 Irish were killed in this extraordinary battle, and with abundant supplies, Owen Roe was able to equip a large army of 10,000 men under his colours.
O'Neill deliberated over pursuing Monroe, whilst the Catholic Confederation tore itself apart with indecision and argument over the latest treaty with Ormond, so that the advantage of Benburb was never capitalised on. The clerical faction took over the Supreme Council, which now included O'Neill, along with Preston and Rinuccini. The commanders marched on Dublin, but atrocious weather, the arrival of parliamentary ships, and Preston's ineptitude led Owen to withdraw. The nuncio gave way to a more moderate Confederate faction, and in January 1647, Ormond rebuffed a new settlement, surrendering Dublin to to parliamentary control rather than handing it over to the Confederates, and sailed himself to England. Preston took on another offensive on Dublin, this time alone, with O'Neill left out of the frame.
What are these fools thinking? Tales idiotas. Once again, they have chosen Preston over me to lead an attack on Dublin. Their infighting and backstabbing and small-mindedness is detracting them from the job at hand. That incompetent, lily-livered fool Preston is not capable of leading a company, much less an army. His cowardly indecisiveness will surely mean defeat. Set the whole campaign back even further. Jones will crush him and his army like ants.
He will surely, sir. Like ants. Like ants.
Things were falling apart for O'Neill, who had now no support or supplies. When Rinuccini threatened supporters of the truce with excommunication, Preston joined with other Old English lords against Owen's depleted Ulster army, and with the very people who he had protected now attacking him, he was forced to agree a ceasefire with Parliamentary Commander Michael Jones. In August 1649, Oliver Cromwell's army arrived with the clear intention of ridding Ireland entirely of Catholics.
Sir, General O'Neill, sir, have you heard the news? The terrible news.
Calm down, Paddy. What news do you speak of?
It's the murder of Frederick Cromwell. The boss has gone and landed in Ring's End, and he's killed all before him. Men, women, children. We're all going to be killed. What are we going to do?
Cromwell. Indeed, Paddy. It was only a matter of time, and now the time has come. We must take action. We must act. I must decide. We have Ormond and his faction on one side and the parliamentarians on the other. God knows I detest both equally. We must unite and defeat this Cromwell. I'll send 3,000 men to assist Ormond in Carrickmacross. We must avoid open warfare with this Cromwell at all costs. Our best strategy would be to defend the mountain passes in Wicklow. Retard the enemy's advance until spring sets in. A treaty could be signed. Yes, we must unite for the good of our country and for our religious freedom. Now, Paddy, I want you to go and get Phil. Now go. Make haste. Make haste, Paddy. Get him quickly. Bring him here.
Owen Roe had run out of friends and options. He continued corresponding and appealing for assistance, but his isolation was at this point, to all effects, complete. Letter to Sir Nicholas Plunkett, Ormond's Commissioner, 25th of September, 1649, Omagh.
Noble Sir, I received your letter of September the 18th, informing me that you will attend the meeting in Kiltoom in expectation of the signing of the treaty between His Excellency and me. Your letter was delivered this afternoon by Colonel O'Reilly. And had I known, which I did not know until now, of your coming so soon, I would have made more haste to meet you. Oh, although the indisposition of my body has prevented me from doing so. Due to a bout of sickness I have developed in my knee, which, God be praised, begins to mend now. I am presently marching with my army towards County Cavan. But prior to my arrival there, your commissioners have arranged for you and the others to meet at Finney on Saturday next to sign the treaty. In the interim, sir, I remain your trusted friend and servant, Lord General Owen Rua O Neill.
O'Neill and Ormond finally agreed terms, and the treaty was signed on the 12th of October 1649.
The turn of earth surprises us. It comes out of the trees. I leave the castle in peace and cross the wet grass. Out here the lake appears fields away from where it is. Willows and alders have 2 foot of clear liquid haunting them. I go deeper, my musket shouldered as I wade through the leaves. The woodwind reeds reach high at their foot white feathers. Water light under the reeds is enough to make them whisper. Over the reed basket, swans have trampled it to a platform. It stinks of swan and the bewitchment of this year's brood. Alders hide me in the chill flood. I hang the musket up on an alder stem that becomes 2 branches, and the warmth of her soul comes into my hands. No moon, dark nights and high tides. Now's time for guides to bring us old, war-beaten soldiers home. Here, the ground is lone. Our guts have a taste of territory and no glory in our shape. We march through hell and back, wary of attack. Escape the normal state for ourselves. Rosa, I've shells in my purse to remind me of our hearts, taken from your shore, my love.
husband, Owen Roe O Neill, died at Cloughther Castle, County Cavan. Cromwell's invasion of Ireland had begun. Owen had been suffering from increasingly bad health and was only weeks away from death. He had been struck down by a fatal illness. Some say that he had been poisoned. His army brought him to Miles Riley's castle at Cloughther, County Cavan, where he died on the 6th of November, 1649. J. Gorau a Am Jilish.